So we've been discussing beat, the constant steady pulse, but even more important is rhythm, the various lengths of the notes and the silences. Can notes and sounds can last a portion of a beat or more than one beat, and we have different symbols to communicate that. The basic unit is a note that represents one beat, usually, but not always, represented by a quarter note. And you see one here. It's the black oval with a line that goes up. The line is called the stem. The oval is called the head. If the stem is on the right, or if it goes up, it will be on the right. If it goes down, it will be on the left, and you'll see plenty of examples of that. So we have different shapes of notes to represent the different number of beats it should receive. A whole note, which is an oval like this, normally, but like I say, not always, receives 4 beats. And sometimes I tell students, remember, it looks like a hole, an H-O-L-E, a hole, but it is whole, and that represents 4 beats, or the normal size of a measure that we encounter so often, 4 beats per measure. If you add a stem to the whole note, going up or down, now that's called a half note. Notice the inside is still hollow of a half note, and that in the common time gets 2 beats. The next division is the one we talked about earlier, the quarter note, the black oval with the stem, and that represents 1 beat. If we add to the quarter note a flag, which is that wispy part you see there, that gets 1/2 of a beat. And in an instance where you have more than one of those in a row, that little flag will go straight across to the one next to it. And then it's called a beam. You'll see those later. There's still our 1/8 notes that get 1/2 of a beat. And then we can continue to add beams or flags to make it even smaller. This is a 16th note, and I don't think I put on here, but you can have 32nd notes or 64th notes, getting even smaller divisions of the beat. Just as we have those symbols for beats, or for notes and how many beats they get, we also have symbols for rests, which means don't play, don't make a sound for a certain length of time. And for every note we just saw, quarter note, half note, whole note, etc., there is a rest that corresponds to that. So here is an image of all the kind of rests we've discussed. Here we are on the staff, and the whole rest is this rectangle that hangs from the 4th line right there. And the half rest is also a rectangle, but it sits on top of the 2nd line. And I used to confuse those all the time when I was a student, until someone pointed out to me, just remember the whole rest, the bigger one, is doing chin-ups on the line, and the half rest, the smaller one, has to sit down on the line. And it's kind of silly, but it worked for me. Maybe it'll work for you. The quarter rest you see right here is this thing. It's rather difficult to draw with a normal pencil. It requires a calligraphy pen or pencil to do it correctly, or of course it can be computer generated. But that's the quarter rest there in that teal box. It means don't play for 1 beat. The 8th rest looks kind of like a 7, I would say, but the top part or the flag is curved like that. And then the 16th rest is like this, and we can continue to add hooks or flags on these to make 32nd rest or even 64th rests, which are a little extreme, but they do exist in this world. We will definitely talk a lot more about rhythm. The last topic we're going to touch on in this part is called tempo. And tempo means the rate of speed, how fast the beats are going. Now, in the modern world, we can represent tempo very precisely by what is called a metronome marking. And it says how many beats per minute we want the tempo to be. So if we said 60 beats per minute, well, that would be 1 beat per second. So that's pretty easy to recognize. 120 beats per minute would be twice that fast. It's about like this. And it goes up to about 180, even 230, which is pretty fast. It can be faster, but usually you don't see a marking more than about 230. It can be drastically slower too, like maybe 30 or even 20 beats per minute. 20 would be or a 1 beat every 3 seconds. So that's pretty drastically slow. And in the studio, we certainly use that a lot. And in modern music, you often see a metronome marking where the composer has told us exactly how fast it should be. But some composers do not want to be that precise about it. And of course, tempo in music has been around much longer than the invention of the metronome, even though the metronome has been around for a couple of centuries or more. Sometimes, rather than giving a metronome mark, the composer will say, make it fast, or very fast, or slowly, or incredibly slowly. And sometimes they are in English, but just like dynamics, they're more often in Italian. So we have to learn a lot of Italian words. And there's lots of words for tempos, just like there'd be lots of English words to describe speed. So this screen has a number of tempo marks that would be good for you to know. And it might seem like a lot, but I promise there are even more in this world. These are all Italian words. Largo, which was very slow. It actually means large, like the beats are large. Grave, seriously. Adagio just means slow. Andante actually means you walk. So that's sort of a walking speed. Moderato, moderately. Allegretto, a little fast. Allegro actually means quickly and happily. Allegro is happily. Vivace, lively. Presto, fast. Prestissimo, you remember issimo is a superlative ending in Italian. So prestissimo is about as fast as you can stand. If it says prestissimo, be ready to move along.